The rain lashed against the cracked windows of the old asylum, creating a haunting melody that echoed through the empty halls. I stood in the doorway, the cold seeping through my jacket, and a feeling of dread settled in the pit of my stomach. Why had I agreed to come here? Curiosity, they said. But as I stepped into the dimly lit foyer, I couldn't shake the overwhelming sense of foreboding. The air was heavy with the scent of mildew, and the floor creaked beneath my hesitant footsteps. I clutched the flickering flashlight in my hand, its feeble beam revealing peeling wallpaper and shattered glass. A shiver ran down my spine as I thought of the countless stories that surrounded this place. Tales of tortured souls and unspeakable horrors. The asylum had been abandoned for decades, condemned by the cruelty that had once festered within its walls. It was said that the spirits of the tormented lingered, their anguished whispers carried on the wind. I scoffed at such notions, dismissing them as the fabrications of overactive imaginations. Yet, as I delved deeper into the asylum's depths, I couldn't ignore the feeling that I was not alone. The corridors twisted and turned, a labyrinth of decay and despair. Shadows danced on the peeling wallpaper, and every distant sound seemed magnified, distorted into something otherworldly. I heard faint whispers, like the soft murmur of lost souls seeking solace. My heart quickened, and I pressed on, the darkness swallowing me with each step. A door creaked open on rusted hinges, revealing a room shrouded in darkness. My flashlight flickered, and for a moment the room appeared empty. But as the beam steadied, I saw them, faces etched in agony, their hollow eyes fixated on me. The air grew thick with sorrow, and the temperature plummeted. I stumbled backward, my pulse racing. The faces in the darkness seemed to follow my every move. A voice, a mere whisper, echoed in the desolation, telling tales of pain and torment. I tried to shake off the feeling that icy fingers traced my spine, but the spectral presence clung to me like a suffocating fog. As I navigated the maze of corridors, the asylum seemed to come alive. The walls groaned with the weight of tortured memories, and unseen hands brushed against my skin. I reached the heart of the asylum, a decrepit auditorium with decaying wooden seats and a stage shrouded in shadows. A flicker of movement caught my eye, and I turned to see a figure standing on the stage. It was a silhouette, ethereal and indistinct. My breath caught in my throat as the figure beckoned, its movements graceful yet filled with a sorrowful urgency. Against my better judgment, I approached. The figure materialized into the form of a woman, her eyes hollow but pleading. She wore a tattered gown, reminiscent of a bygone era. Her voice, a ghostly whisper, spoke of betrayal and anguish. She extended a spectral hand, and as I hesitated, a vision flashed before my eyes. I saw the asylum in its prime, a place of supposed healing turned into a chamber of horrors. The woman, once a nurse, was betrayed by those she trusted. Her pleas for mercy echoed in the empty auditorium, and her spirit was forever bound to the desolation that surrounded her. I recoiled, the vision fading as quickly as it had appeared. The woman on the stage remained, her silent plea echoing in my mind. I felt a weight on my chest, a suffocating guilt that wasn't mine. The asylum demanded retribution, and as the shadows closed in, I knew I had become a pawn in a spectral game of redemption. Desperation fueled my steps as I retraced my path through the twisting corridors. The whispers grew louder, the faces more twisted in their torment. The asylum hungered for justice, and I, an unwitting intruder, had become its vessel. My flashlight flickered, threatening to plunge me into darkness. At last, I reached the foyer, the rain outside matching the turmoil within. The asylum seemed to breathe, its walls pulsating with an otherworldly energy. The faces that had haunted me were now etched into the peeling wallpaper, their silent screams frozen in time. I stumbled back into the storm, the rain washing away the oppressive atmosphere that clung to me. The asylum loomed behind, its windows shattered and its secrets laid bare. As I looked back one last time, a solitary figure stood in the broken doorway, a specter of the tormented past. The rain intensified, washing away the sins of the forsaken asylum. I walked away, haunted by the echoes of a history I had unwittingly embraced. The asylum, its spectral inhabitants, and the weight of their stories lingered in the recesses of my mind. A reminder that some places are better left abandoned, their secrets buried in the shadows. I woke up in a cold sweat. My heart pounded in my chest, and a sense of unease filled the room. I tried to shake off the feeling, attributing it to a bad dream. But as I looked around my dark bedroom, I couldn't shake off the feeling that something wasn't right. I glanced at the clock, its red numbers glaring back at me in the darkness. 3 a.m., the witching hour. A chill ran down my spine. I pulled the blanket tighter around me, trying to ward off the cold that seemed to engulf the room. The silence was suffocating. I got out of bed and stumbled towards the window, hoping to catch a glimpse of the outside world. But as I drew closer to the glass, my heart stopped. The moon hung in the sky, pale and haunting. Its once white light had taken on a sinister hue, casting an eerie glow over everything it touched. A sudden sound broke the silence, a soft creaking noise coming from downstairs. I stood frozen, my breath catching in my throat. I knew I should hide, call the police, or even flee from my home. But curiosity got the better of me, and against my better judgment, I found myself descending the staircase. The cold air grew thicker with each step, and a sense of foreboding weighed heavy on my shoulders. The creaking noise intensified, now mixed with low whispers. I couldn't make out the words, but the malicious tone sent chills down my spine. As I reached the bottom of the staircase, I peered into the living room. What I saw sent shivers down my spine. The room was shrouded in darkness, save for a flickering candle in the corner. Shadows danced along the walls, their forms twisting and contorting. I hesitantly took a step forward, my foot sinking into something sticky. I looked down to see deep red footprints trailing across the floor. Blood. Panic surged through me, and I turned on my heels, ready to flee. But something in the corner of my eye caught my attention. A figure standing in front of the fireplace. It was tall and gaunt, with long, bony fingers that curled around the edges of the mantelpiece. Its eyes glowed red, piercing through the darkness. Its lips curled into a malevolent grin, revealing yellowed teeth. The whispers grew louder, filling the room with an unholy chorus. I stumbled backward, tripping over the coffee table and crashing to the ground. Pain shot through my body, but the fear overshadowed it. I crawled towards the door, desperate to escape whatever entity had invaded my home. The whispers grew louder still, drowning out all other sounds. As I reached the front door, a bone-chilling gust of wind slammed it shut, trapping me inside. I pounded on the door, my voice drowned out by the cacophony of whispers that surrounded me. Desperation took hold, as I realized I was trapped in a nightmare that seemed never-ending. Suddenly the whispers stopped, and an eerie silence filled the room. My heart raced, uncertainty coursing through my veins. The figure stepped forward, its elongated limbs covering the distance with ease. Its eyes bore into mine, freezing me in place. "Why are you running, mortal?" it hissed. The voice was as chilling as the grave, and something told me that defiance would only worsen my fate. I swallowed hard, my voice barely audible as I replied, "Well, what do you want from me?" The figure's grin widened, its teeth glinting ominously. "Your soul," it whispered, the words reverberating through the room. "Devoured by darkness, so that you may become one of us." Dread filled every fiber of my being, and as it lunged toward me, fangs bared, I closed my eyes and said a silent prayer. But instead of feeling its bite, I felt a burst of warmth. I opened my eyes to find myself back in my bed, covered in sweat. It took me a moment to realize it was all just a dream. Relief washed over me, but as I glanced at the clock, I couldn't shake off a lurking unease. 3 a.m., the witching hour. I knew then that the horrors I had just experienced were not confined to my dreams. They were real, and they would come for me again. I woke up to the sound of rain pounding against my bedroom window. Lightning flashed, momentarily illuminating the room, casting eerie shadows on the walls. Thunder followed quickly, shaking the house to its foundation. I sat up, feeling a sense of unease settle over me like a thick fog. As I swung my legs out of bed, the floor felt oddly cold beneath my bare feet. I glanced around, searching for anything out of the ordinary. But everything seemed normal, the furniture arranged exactly as I left it, no mysterious objects appearing overnight. Ignoring my instincts, I shrugged off the unease and made my way to the kitchen. The storm outside raged on, wind howling through the trees like a pack of wild animals. I reached for a cup to make myself a hot drink, only to freeze as I caught sight of something in the corner of my eye. In the darkness outside the kitchen window, I saw a figure standing beneath the flickering streetlight. Tall and thin, it was barely discernible through the sheet of rain pouring down. My heart hammered in my chest as a chill ran down my spine. Could it be a trick of the light? My mind raced with possibilities, trying to rationalize the unsettling image. But a voice deep within told me something was wrong, terribly wrong. I tore my gaze away and forced myself to carry on with my morning routine. The unease clung to me like a shadow, making it difficult to concentrate. The storm carried on, relentless and unforgiving. Every now and then, a flash of lighting would briefly illuminate the street outside, revealing nothing but the rain-soaked pavement. A knock at the door shattered the silence, nearly making me jump out of my skin. I glanced through the peephole, only to see nothing but darkness. No one could be seen outside, but the knocking persisted. Reluctantly, I opened the door, finding myself face to face with emptiness. Fear surged through me, making my skin crawl. I closed the door, bolting it shut this time. The knocking continued, growing louder and more insistent. It reverberated throughout the house, echoing in my ears. I clamped my hands over them, desperate to drown out the unholy sound. But then, the knocking ceased. Silence engulfed the house, leaving only the relentless rain and the pounding of my heart. I hesitated, unsure of what to do next. Something was out there, something malevolent, and it wasn't going away. Suddenly I heard a whisper, soft and barely distinguishable. It seemed to be coming from behind the walls, permeating every corner of the house. Dread washed over me as I realized I was no longer alone. Something had taken up residence within these walls, and it wanted me, my soul. I ran for the front door, desperate to escape the clutches of whatever sinister entity haunted my home. But as I reached for the doorknob, a supernatural force prevented me from turning it. Panic consumed me as I pulled with all my might, but to no avail. I was trapped. The whispers grew louder, the voice now distinct, filled with malice and intent. "You cannot escape," it taunted, the words sending shivers down my spine. "Your agony shall be everlasting. Welcome to your eternal nightmare." I collapsed to the ground, tears streaming down my face, as I realized the grim reality of my situation. There was no escape. No one would save me from this living nightmare. The walls closed in around me, and the whispers grew deafening. Then, in one last desperate act, I took a deep breath and screamed at the top of my lungs, defying the darkness that threatened to consume me. And for a moment, there was a flicker of hope, a momentary respite from the horrors that surrounded me. But the house remained, a sinister entity that hungered for my soul. And as the whispers grew louder still, drowning out all reason, I knew that in this battle between light and dark, I was destined to lose.